Here we are on the second hole, and with the approach, we have Abby with the 9-iron, and she makes good contact right there. And oh, we have a Joel in one. Ladies and gentlemen, episode 2 of The Last of Us, season 2, concluded with the climactic event that we all knew this series was gonna live and die by. And well, it's interesting. It's very interesting because the response has been, well, I don't know, maybe a little bit more positive than it was in the game, and the way that the scene ended up being adapted was, hey man, I gotta give them credit for this because they said they were going to be somewhat faithful to the source material, and it was for the most part, but there's also certain aspects of it that was actually worse than the game. Long story short is, Joel still didn't just simply say the thing that would have at least made him seem a little bit more competent, but this is Pedro Pascal we're talking about, and it's a man being represented in entertainment in 2025, so of course he was going to be an incompetent, bumbling jackass. He wouldn't just simply say, hey, you know why I took out your dad? Yeah, because he was going to carve up the brain of my surrogate daughter on a whim, okay? He didn't inform her that she was going to die because of this procedure, and yeah, I was lied to. We were all lied to. The Fireflies are insane psychopaths, and if you thought that they were going to be able to, even if they were going to be able to make some kind of a vaccine out of the brain goop that they can get out of Bella Ramsey's gargantuan noggin, did you think that they were going to go ahead and willingly distribute said vaccine throughout the rest of the world? Do you think they were actually going to follow through on that? No. If he would have just simply made a couple of those points, we would have actually had some compelling character work. But nope, we needed to find a new place for Ellie to rest her 5-iron, and of course, they ended up doing it. It's just, it's a little awkward, right? Because off of the back of the first episode, for as many people that watched it as they did, the conversation around it was, the fight scene was kind of cringe, and why do we have somebody, going to a therapist in the post-apocalypse? Like, what the hell are we doing? There wasn't a lot to the first episode that ended up standing the test of time, just that 1 week, okay? It kind of fell apart upon further inspection and further scrutiny, and while we're still waiting, at least the time of recording, we don't have any overnight ratings posted. That could obviously change, and I'm going to be very interested because that's the way that I'm going to, somewhat pay attention to this series moving forward, because yeah, you got all of these big emotional beats. Oh my god, you get to see Joel and Ellie back for the first time in 2 years, and oh, we don't have bigot sandwiches, but we got the big old bigot dance that's going down, and Joel just teleports in and he rugby tackle somebody that doesn't like lesbians in the post-apocalypse. It's like, yeah, very, very important character work that we have right there. But Pedro Pascal now being reduced to somebody who potentially could be in flashbacks, like that's the best way that he's going to be be a part of this. And honestly, for as much as you and I are very much over the whole Pedro mania, and it's only going to get worse through the end of the year because, hey guys, Fantastic Four, that's going to be great, right? Yeah, we can't get enough of insufferable, incompetent Pedro. Let's just have him get cucked once again as the incompetent Mr. Fantastic seceding all of his authority to Sue Storm. That's going to be such a great movie. Okay, it'll be fantastic if it's a fucking 4. Let's talk about this show that is very likely about to fall off a cliff, at least when it comes to popularity-wise. I can't speak of the writing quality. I haven't watched the first episode. Hell, I didn't even watch any of the coverage of the first season. I just thought, it's like, okay, cool. We all know where this ends. It's a game that, a lot of people played, myself included, back in 2013 when it first came around. Liked it quite a bit. No desire to ever go back and experience it again, mostly because it was clunky to play back then. I wouldn't imagine time would be that kind to it in that respect. And no, I'm not buying one of the 95 different remasters of it just to, move a ladder in 60 FPS. I'm good. But I guess it resonated with enough people back in the early days of 2023 that enough people turned around. Actually, more people. 16% season premiere on season premiere ended up having an increase, which is more than what a lot of series can say. So yeah, there was some interest into this. But after that first episode, and then especially after this one, I'm not entirely sure we're going to be in for anything different than exactly what played out in the games. It's like, okay, cool. How is Neil Druckmann going to reconcile with this a gigantic backlash and just maybe the people that were interested and thought that, oh, because it's dark and gritty, that means that it's a serious and it's an adult show. After all of that magic wears off and people just have apathy because, I don't know, it's getting nicer outside and people don't want to have, misery set the tone for their week moving forward for the next, 5 weeks at this point. Maybe they'll just wait until the season is totally over and binge it during the dog days of summer, but it's going to be tough going in the weeks that follow because, you got Pedro Pascal reacts to The Last of Us shocker. I'm in active denial. Yeah, mostly because you're wondering how you can be a part of the series moving forward because you know that you're about the only person who's bringing eyeballs to this program because Bella Ramsey and the chick who plays Abby, they're fine in their roles, but for whatever reason, Pedro's definitely normie nip. Case in point, why he's cast in so many things. And so if there's a plan for a third or even fourth season, I don't know how they do that, and I don't know how they repurpose so many Joel flashbacks, especially. Well, I guess they could, because what I know about episode 2 is that they just actively lie about the death of Abby's father, but they recontextualize a bunch of stuff, I suppose. And seeing Bella Ramsey sobbed while she read the script and was also on the screen, if they continue to follow the second game the way that they have so far in this season, she's going to have a lot of opportunities to cry and mong out, and I just don't really know if that's going to resonate with a bunch of people. But as it sits right now, it's going to be difficult to judge, okay? Because you got The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 2 sets an all-time IMDb record for an HBO show following a major event. And now you might think, because a lot of people are upset by this, because we just simply take a look back in time to 2020 when all of the leaks from The Last of Us Part 2 were coming out, and oh, wow, he gets disrespected like that, huh? And then people immediately turned on the project. But apparently this time around, at least on IMDb, it's not really the case, okay? On IMDb, The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 2 holds a 9.5 stars out of 10 based on 13,000 reviews, making it the highest rated episode of the entire series as of writing. But we've seen this time and time again. The highest rated single piece of Star Wars content, okay? Full stop. I think it was, sitting also at that 9.5 was that episode that Anakin Skywalker came back and he Vadered. He got the red. It's red. That Member Berries episode, it was the single highest rated piece of content back in 2023 in the entire pantheon of Star Wars. How many people look back on that favorably, or they go, wow, that was like 20 minutes. I don't know what they ended up doing with the rest of that episode. All right, a lot of Ahsoka folding her arms and staring off at the stupid space whales. It was such a great episode, guys, though, but totally worth it because Anakin came back after he previously came back a year prior to that in the Obi-Wan series that we don't want to talk about, but it was peak fire at the time until, of course, credits rolled on the last episode going, oh no, actually that wasn't that good after all. Is that what we're going to see eventually with The Last of Us Season 2? Or are people finally going to come back around going, why didn't Joel advocate for himself? Okay, and why is it they made a more video gamey video game sequence in the defense of the stronghold of Jackson, and they didn't have it in the game, but they had it in the show because they had the opportunity to have this big action set piece because for inexplicable reasons they decided to switch Dina with Tommy so Tommy could lead the defense of Jackson while the clickers and all of the infected tried to swarm the colony. But then there was also a very obvious plot armor and plot contrived scene in there where the settlement is overrun with clickers and infected, and Tommy's just standing out in the open and he doesn't get taken advantage of. It's like, eventually people are going to look back on that and go, wow, that was mighty stupid. Especially when he gets shot in the head later and then he comes back and he's a sniper in Seattle. Oopsie daisy, spoilers on that one. But if you're watching this, you're already just very ambivalent towards this show. And once people figure out that, oh, this shit sucks and it's only the shills that are going to continue to defend it, I don't know what to tell you, because as much as it's getting glowing reviews on IMDb, over on Rotten Tomatoes, which when it comes to gauging the audience and how they're perceiving films in the cinema, when it comes to TV, it's a little bit more accurate, but it's still Rotten Tomatoes after all. It's just one aggregator, all things considered. But The Last of Us Season 2's Rotten Tomatoes audience score gets infected by review bombers. Oh yeah, right. The people back in 2020 that were just called bigots and everything under the sun. Now you have to go ahead and try to spin that out to be the wider public that was watching this, the just about 10 million people that were checking out every episode. Now they're all wrong and they're all bigots because the authorities like this, because it's very intelligent writing that you bigots just wouldn't understand. It's quite subversive, actually. It would appear that the trolls are out of their caves, right? It's everybody that doesn't like the slop is a troll. All right, cool. Is this not just tired at this point? But no, you just keep running with it. Despite the best efforts of Rotten Tomatoes to prevent this sort of thing, the second season of HBO's The Last of Us seems to have become a victim of review bombing. This is when a group of disgruntled viewers makes a collective effort to manipulate a film or show's ratings on aggregator platforms. Or they just say, wow, that was kind of ass. And then they go on these sites and then they tell other people, don't bother with wasting your time on this because shit's ass. And instead of just going through Collider right here, we got a couple of screenshots and one such person that just wants to uphold the status quo. See, look at 96% of the reviewers like it. What's wrong with you 51% of bigots out there? I actually hate gamers. No. Okay. The Last of Us Part 2 was very much the last Jedi for gamers, where you had a dichotomy of people thinking that Neil Druckmann, he's so smart and so subversive. You chuds just don't understand the magnificence that's on display. That audience score, I am pretty sure was a little bit higher, but yeah, the critic score is just always overwhelmingly nauseating when it comes to these dark, gritty, feelings-based shows with the goofy Eastern Island-headed actress. But it ended up rebounding a little bit. Okay, it's not quite that bad anymore. It's back up to 54% overall for, season 2. So funny how you have that byline, which was the exact same thing for the game. Joel and Ellie must survive ruthless killers and monsters on a trek across America after an outbreak. Well, Joel will not be tagging along with Ellie moving forward. And we're going to have to see if the audience is going to be following a similar path, or whether or not, that 54% on Rotten Tomatoes is accurate, or if the overwhelming majority of the conversation out there, which, as you can see over there on the side, it's one of those shows that definitely does get talked about. So I would definitely think this episode might pop a rating. Okay, might pop a rating just simply for the fact of people were kind of thinking, this is when it's going to happen. Okay, but it could also be down because of the really bad first episode. But then, also next episode, how are they going to deal with the aftermath? But it's going to be interesting to follow how many people are actually watching this show moving forward. I was generally surprised by the uptick in viewership for the season premiere. Mostly because it wasn't really much going for it outside of just what was at the time perceived as being a strong season 1, leading into, adapting a game that is absolute dog water. But the general public, okay, and the people that were watching the first season a couple years back don't remember that stuff and just thought it was the show that I watched and I kind of liked it, so I'll give it another chance. There's nothing better to do at this point in time. It's just, how is this going to continue moving forward? What's the outlook of this misery simulator going to be? Oh, fantastic. You're going to have 90-pound, 5'1" Bella Ramsey square against a malnourished version of Abby, and that's going to be your big square off. I don't even know where this season, after the 7th episode premieres, what's going to be the halfway point. Because, in the game, the halfway point was when you ended up switching perspectives and being a part of Abby's world. But now they're trying to ingratiate all of that stuff moving forward. It's just kind of going to peter off, I guess, halfway through. But I don't know. I don't know how many people are really excited about this. I don't hear it talked about all that glowingly in the circles I pay attention to online. People are generally done with this because it's like, okay, cool. Why should I give a shit about a show adapting the worst video game story you are likely to ever hear, watch, and experience? Why would I devote an hour plus of my life every week? Nah, I'm good on that one. So the only thing that'll be interesting moving forward will be the ratings. And when we see that, time will tell if Neil Druckmann's going to be getting a 3rd or a 4th season. I'll be very interested. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.